Hi, I'm Jeff Dixon. Welcome to another episode of Seriously? Question mark, exclamation point, question mark. That's all part of the title. Because we're asking questions and you're going to hear the story and go, seriously, that happened? And the answer is, yeah, it really did. Some of you know, if you know anything about the church at 434 or paid any attention to things I've said in the past, that I often bring the world of Star Trek into teaching or illustrations. I've already told you that the greatest actor of all time in all of mankind history of television and motion pictures is none other than William Shatner. The great William Shatner, the legendary James Tiberius Kirk from the world of Star Trek, brought to life and been alive for a number of movies and become a number of stories for me, and I've had the opportunity to meet him. Gene Roddenberry was the creator of Star Trek. And Gene Roddenberry, driven man, a lot of personal demons, but he is a guy who had a profound effect on science fiction and popular culture. His approach to storytelling often involved themes of looking to the future, where people were accepted because of who they were, where there was no judgment based upon skin color. In a turbulent time in the 60s when Star Trek came about, Star Trek talked about social issues in creative ways without casting judgment, but also offering a hopeful view of the future. It was after the original series that Star Trek was going to be resurrected with a series entitled Star Trek: The Next Generation. It involved casting Patrick Stewart as Captain Jean-Luc Picard. You're familiar with Star Trek. You're familiar with Jean-Luc Picard, who made famous the phrase, "make a show." Well, what you may not know is that Gene Roddenberry considered the idea of having Patrick Stewart wear a wig for his iconic role. Seriously? I mean, when people think of Patrick Stewart, they think of Captain Picard, but they know that he had that shaved head. He was bald, and that became a part of the character itself. And yet, in the early stages, as casting was being done, Roddenberry was pushing for Jean-Luc to have hair. If you think about it, it sounds funny, because seriously, why would you do that? Seriously, why would that need to happen? And as time went by and negotiation took place, eventually, Roddenberry decided against this. Now, Patrick Stewart didn't want to wear a hairpiece for the role, but there were some that thought it was important. And so Roddenberry had people who were offering him suggestions in both ears. He was looking at both sides of the equation. But he finally decided, we'll let Patrick Stewart portray the character as Patrick Stewart looks, because of the mindset and the rules that Gene Roddenberry had created for himself. See, Gene Roddenberry ultimately would say by the 24th century, societal norms would evolve, physical appearance would be less important, and things such as baldness, while an issue for many as vanity today, would be non-existent. He said his vision was that the future would be more focused on character, intellect, and contribution rather than superficial traits. Seriously, they were actually fighting over whether or not Jean-Luc Picard was going to have hair or not. Ultimately, he did not. And at the end of the day, the decision allowed Patrick Stewart to take his natural appearance and embrace his role, but it also symbolized a broader acceptance of the future and embracing people that was a part of that Star Trek universe. Now, it seems silly and it seems like a no-brainer today, because we know the success of Next Generation. We know the movie franchise that has come after it. We know that even to this day, the conventions that take place all over the globe, where cast from the original series, from all of the subsequent series, all come together, and fans from all over the world clamor for autographs and an opportunity to meet and take pictures, and their careers have all moved forward. But there are some spiritual lessons that we can take out of this snippet of history that happened as Star Trek: The Next Generation was being developed. First, I think there is something to say about embracing authenticity. Roddenberry's decision to keep Stewart's baldness reflects the importance of accepting people as they really are. Because if you can authentically accept people as they are, it fosters deeper connections and promotes self-acceptance. In other words, how Patrick Stewart looked did not become the most important thing for the role, and that was important. It also reminds us that we're going to meet people that have all sorts of different looks, ideas, and concepts, all walks of life. Fortunately, as often as he's been guilty of not doing it, Roddenberry, in this case, was able to listen to both sides and to process the information and have an intelligent conversation back defending why he made the choice that he made. See, we live in a world where sometimes we can't tolerate ideas that don't line up with what we believe. And our inability to do that sometimes hurts our ability to function in the world around us. We just get so mad and we get so upset. We want to call each other names. We want to silence people who don't think like we do. And yet, if you're a follower and you want to engage in spiritual conversations, it's really important that we learn how to communicate in ways that honor God and open up conversations where we can talk to people from all walks of life and share with them the truth that we know that comes from the gospel. We don't have to compromise truth. We don't have to do anything with truth except share it. But how we share it so it can be heard really does matter. I also love the fact that there is, at least in the world of Star Trek, an evolution of values that takes place, where the target world that Roddenberry was trying to see when he was creating the series was a world that encouraged a mindset that really did focus on personal character and contributions over just simple things like appearance. And yet, how often is it that still in today's world, we stumble over how someone looks, how someone dresses, how someone presents themselves. We've heard it so many times that we can mimic it back. You only get one chance to make a good first impression, and it is so true. But if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, you have to learn to look beyond that first impression and learn to look at the heart. Because if anybody understands the importance of doing that, it ought to be the followers of Jesus Christ, because Jesus looked past your first impression, which was you're a sinner. And he saw your heart and what you could be. And then we're to love others and forgive others like Christ loves and forgives us. The other thing that we have to do is we have to be able to be willing to challenge norms. Gene Roddenberry and his vision challenged the normal way of thinking. How often is it that we're reminded when we read Scripture that we are not of this world and that we are set apart to be holy, to make a difference in the world around us? And so, yes, it's true, seriously, they were thinking about putting a wig on top of Jean-Luc Picard's head. And can you imagine fighting the Romulans, doing battle intergalactically, and all of a sudden at just the right moment when the bridge gets tossed about, Jean-Luc's hairpiece falls off? It wouldn't look right, would it? Of course not. But that all becomes something that we put in the rearview mirror of the Enterprise as it flies away, because Gene Roddenberry was willing to listen and make what ultimately was the best decision. The best decision for Patrick Stewart, the best decision for the franchise, the best decision for the fans, and the decision that would be remembered and become part of a legacy of Star Trek and this world that they have created that so many of us have enjoyed through the years. Seriously, that's what happened, and that's how it happened. I look forward to joining you in our next episode.